up, everybody? Clamorin here, and we're gonna be talking about Taylor Swifty and her big boyfriend or fiance.
This is going in my video.
No, it's not. Subscribe to Commander After Dark.
Is it still recording? What?
Yeah, go. I'll direct.
Go away. Hi, what's up, everybody? Yes, it's Cameron back again with another video. Today, I want to talk about Letterkenny. I tried to find like commentary videos on Letterkenny on YouTube maybe a few months ago. So if there's some now, like, don't shoot me, but I was looking and I couldn't find any commentary videos about Letterkenny on YouTube. And I don't know if it's because it's just not like huge in America, or I have no idea. I just want to talk about how much I love the show because I've probably watched it now at least 6 times. But I'm one of those people that like, I get a good comfort show going and I just want to watch that show over and over again. I've seen BoJack Horseman like 20 times probably at this point. I always want to go back to like New Girl. I watch Gilmore Girls once a year. I just have these comfort shows that I always return to. I guess because I crave familiarity. And I also just like things that I don't have to pay full attention to, so I can do stuff while I'm watching it, like the iPad kid that I am.
What? What's gonna happen?
I did.
So originally my brother introduced this show to me. Shout out Keeg, my younger brother. He watched the show and introduced it to me, you know, when it was on Hulu. I think whenever it had like 6 or 7 seasons in. We didn't really discover it right at the beginning there. We ended up I just watched like an episode with him every now and then, and I just fell in love with it. And I got to a point where I'd kind of watch it with him. Got to a point where I would just watch it by myself, like on my phone or whatever. And then, you know, as we know, Shoresy came out like recently, semi-recently, you know, within recent years. And it has really taken the like comedy style that Jared Keeso has brought and introduced in Letterkenny, and takes it to a whole other level. And I think Shoresy does like a better job of connecting with the characters, but Letterkenny also like has this interesting way of connecting through the characters through their relationships. So yeah, I'm just gonna talk about everything I love about it. I'm not going episode by episode because but I also have some fun facts that I wanted to talk about that Jared Keeso has just talked about in interviews, but I kind of watched some and gathered all the information. So airing from 2016 to 2023, sorry, I'm reading this part because I just can't remember numbers that well. This 81 episode, 12 season Canadian comedy delighted viewers with banter, unique characters, super hot women, and intense fight scenes. So it is based in this fictional town. Letterkenny is not a real place. It is based though in like Midwestern Ontario, which is province of Canada, because Canada has provinces. And we follow Wayne and his sister Katie as they kind of navigate small town life. They're kind of based in this town where it's a setting of very, what's it called, like a cliquey kind of town, where there's this type of people, and then this group of people, and then this group of people, and they all have their differences and they have some similarities. And then seeing them kind of interact with each other, cross boundaries, you know, there's kind of like rules set up within the community between all of these groups. The show is just exploring those boundaries being crossed, you know, or pushed. You think about that episode of the like Christmas episode where they have a Christmas party at Wayne and Katie's house and they invite everybody, right? And so Wayne, he even has gifts for the people he probably hates the most in town, which is like Stuart, the Skids. And just seeing that dynamic play out is always so like cute to me. Like, I don't know, it just like has this emotional response because it really shows the essence of what community is. Community, you know, we may not believe the same things all the time. We might not have the same outlook on something. We might be completely different from each other, but being in a community with each other means that we see past our differences. We still protect those in our community and look out for them like they do in Letterkenny. So I really like how the show explores, you know, those groups, you know, playing with the boundaries within the groups, but also just the idea of a small community, because I'm from a small town, and there's something about being in a small town where whenever you run into people from your small town outside of it, it's like, oh my gosh, you're from da-da-da. Oh, do you know this person? Do you know this? You like start connecting the dots. And it's because of a shared experience, right? And the shared experience can be so powerful. And that's what Jared Kiso really taps into with Letterkenny. I could run into somebody from my town, from across the world, and still say like, hey, we got the best Sonic though, right? And they'll be like, yeah. Like there's just these shared experiences in small towns that will always be relatable to those other people who grew up there, or even people who passed through there or have family from there. It's a way that we connect as human beings. I also wanted to talk about like just like a little run through like kind of the groups that we have, you know, including hockey players, skids, this video is more for people who have seen the show, because I don't have a lot of people in my life who have watched this show, and so I can't really gab about it with anybody else except for my brother. And so that's kind of what so I'm not gonna like give you the whole layout or anything like that. Again, about the groups, you know, you have hockey players, skids, Hicks, Mennonites, natives, and then like a few quirky individuals kind of sprinkled in there who like don't really fall into a group, or maybe they're outsiders, like, you know, Gail or Glenn. Having all these different personalities in there just makes the whole show this dynamic playground of dialogue and witty dialogue, and that's kind of also how all the characters are connected, right? They all have this way of speaking, the similar sense of humor. So even though, you know, Stuart could not be more different than Wayne, they can still play off of each other and like have that humorous dialogue that the show is just built on, right? And have like those clever puns and conversations, all that good stuff. And so that's something else that really connects everybody through the community, is that, you know, you might be a drug dealer, or you might be a hick, or you might be, you know, from the reservation, but you all are connected through the shared experience and through their almost own language. In the show, they kind of do have their own language in a way. This show has such organized comedy writing, and it just scratches an itch in my brain of just how the loop just kind of closes every time one of those scenes comes up. Whenever they're kind of back and forth witty banter, you know, they always kind of just close that loop. And to me, it makes me just think it's organized, right? Like just a very organized way of writing, organized way of presenting dialogue, and it's doing something I've not seen other places do. I did compare kind of the quickness and the wittiness to like Gilmore Girls, just because of how much of the show's dependence is on the dialogue. That's kind of how like Gilmore Girls is, and where the humor from Gilmore Girls comes from. So I did compare it in that way. And I mentioned Jared Kiso a bunch. So, you know, he created the show. He stars as Wayne. Letterkenny premiered on Crave on February 7th, 2016. But before the show, we're gonna get like a little into the history of it. The show was actually adapted from a YouTube series called Letterkenny Problems. So Jared Kiso, who also stars as Wayne, was actually on this Canadian police drama called 19-2 in 2013. I've never seen it, but it's just kind of interesting to think about Jared Kiso in a more like dramatic role, because he's just so like unserious, like has this flair of, you know, sarcasm in the way he delivers and performs on both Shoresy and Letterkenny, right? But, you know, he's in this drama, and he's used Letterkenny Problems that he created as an outlet for comedy. So he got together with a director, Theo Kim, and he produced it himself, and it was just like this online miniseries called Letterkenny Problems. Then in 2016, that's when Crave TV signed Jared to develop the web series into a full-blown series. But before Letterkenny Problems even, there was Lissotowel Problems. I don't know if I'm saying Lissotowel right. I think you're supposed to just kind of say it fast, like Liz Towel. Jared Kiso and a close childhood friend actually were from a town called Listowel, and this is where the whole inspiration of Letterkenny kind of comes from. They both started this anonymous Twitter account, and they started tweeting just like single lines of comedic issues that are only in that small town. And I think the root of this coming from a real small town experience, and like a lot of the, tweets are from real life issues. I think that's really what brings an authenticity to the show. So after they started the anonymous Twitter account, it took off, and they published, these short clips, and some of them are even familiar to like the Letterkenny style, like in the second person of writing. If you ever watch Letterkenny, it's like starts out with like,
your friends are out picking off groundhogs down the side road and they want you to come, but your dad's got the 22 and your gas tank's dry as a fart.
You blanked the blank the other day. That's kind of how some of those tweets read. And so you can tell from these old tweets how much the original idea influenced the show, throughout its entire run. And also, like, some of the tweets are just straight up messy, like calling people out by name, like very, like, kind of gossipy almost, which I think is really funny.
Bad gas travel fast in a small town.
If you ever have any time on your hands, go through the tweets. The Twitter account is still up on X. So yeah, they're really funny, and you can find a lot of inspiration from the actual show there. After Jared named the shtick to Letterkenny Problems and filmed it for YouTube, they garnered millions of views very quickly for the miniseries. That's what fueled Crave TV to pick up the show. Another side note that I wanted to bring up, if y'all have ever seen Jared Kiso in interviews, it weirds me the hell out, because Jared is so serious in his role as Wayne and Shorzy. Like, both characters don't like just smile with their teeth a lot, and they're not like super, Wayne is like polite, but like Jared in all of his videos, his interviews, like on podcasts and stuff, he's just like so kind, like has that Canadian kindness and like constant smile on his face, and it just seems like a really sweet person. And I thought that was so funny, like his contrast with like who he really is to his characters. It really shows like how well of a performer he is. So I'm just gonna go through the YouTube series real quick. Just a few observations. So I rewatched the whole YouTube series. It doesn't take that long. You should go back and watch it, because I think it's like 8 or 10 episodes, and they're like 2 minutes long each. It's like they all resemble like the intro scene to a Letterkenny episode, like right before the dun 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 dun, all of them could just be an intro scene. So the earliest video I could find on the Letterkenny Problems YouTube channel is Jared, Nathan, and like they're with a puppy in a baseball field, and Nathan is the guy who plays Derry. And I thought it was cool that a lot of the characters that ended up on the show were there from like the beginning in the miniseries. So Daryl, the guy who plays Daryl, played him from the beginning, and even Squirrely Dan's actor was in there from the beginning. So like what you see in this first episode is Jared and Nathan are having like a back and forth conversation where each responds to some kind of pun with like a famous baseball player's name in it. So they go back and forth for a while, and this is like a classic dynamic in the show. Then at the end, like you kind of have your hook, they usually at the end have just a little bit of a twist, like a hot girl shows up, and they sort of have that classic pause and response, and the only thing missing is just them cutting away and starting a full episode. It could just be like an intro to a regular episode. The craziest part about this beginning though is that Jared is in a short sleeve shirt, which Wayne is never in a short sleeve shirt, so it threw me off. These shorts also have like the same backdrop of the show, so just shots of barns and rural crap. The style is also about the same. The unnamed characters are in like these static positions and taking turns saying stuff. That sounds so like stupid, but that's really what Letterkenny is. I think they shot most of these on like location, because so many of the shots look like they're trying to fix the overexposure of the sun and kind of failing. But I could be wrong. I know literally nothing about cinematography in any way. Each episode is about 2 minutes long. Something else that really draws me in about Letterkenny too is like the culture, and I think Jared Kiso said this in interviews too, where the dialogue and the way Letterkenny is a lot how the culture actually is in Midwestern Ontario. Throughout the dialogue in the show, in Letterkenny, problems, I'm learning a lot more about the culture there and also the language there. I learned that they call cigarettes darts, and there's a chip flavor called All Season, which sounds disgusting. So after like watching, I'll find myself saying like, to be fair, like all the time, which is more of an inside joke, but still, it's funny how they also present like this inside joke throughout the series, and like it evolves, and you get to kind of grow with the joke and you feel like you're in it, which makes you feel even more connected to the characters. The charming vocabulary that they utilize on the script rubs off on you, and like the repetitive usage of it, it's very endearing. People I've introduced the show to, I've gotten some feedback of people saying like that the show is just so repetitive that like sometimes it gets hard to watch. I like repetitive stuff, so that's probably, like I said, I watch shows over and over and over again. When I was a kid, I used to watch the same movie over and over and over again. Like I'd pick a movie for the week and that's what I would watch on repeat the entire week. Like that's why I can still to this day quote so many things from Tarzan or like Disney movies, is because that's what I would do. So I think it just depends what kind of personality you have. Like obviously, there's no accounting for taste and different tastes of stuff like that when it comes to repetitiveness. So, I get that point that this show can get a little too repetitive for some. But for me, I eat it up every single time. On episode 7, we actually get to see for the first time Dylan Playfair and Andrew Hare as the hockey players, and it's like watching the Mona Lisa being painted by Leonardo for the first time.
Ladies love the flow, bro. Sickest flow, bro.
Buddy, the only thing ladies love is when you quit talking.
Like, it is so good. They nailed those characters from the start, and their performances are just always incredible. They just have the dumbest looking faces. Perfect for Riley and Jonesy. Daryl is also in shorts in this episode, which is jarring. Like he never wears shorts in the show, right? The classic setup is that they start off the show they were actually tossing the ball around in this episode, and the hockey players, roll up on them. And so this is like the classic first scene of them roasting the hockey players. And it's interesting too, because we don't have Katie yet. Wayne actually has 2 sisters that the hockey players are dropping off, not just Katie. And so I'm glad they ended up with the one sister, Katie, because in this one they kind of seemed like bimbo sisters, like not really much of characters. And the meaningfulness of who Katie is and like, being Wayne's little sister and their dynamic and their relationship is very important to the show. So I'm glad that they gave Wayne, one sister first of all, so they can have a very, just like special relationship, but also that they ended up giving Katie the personality that she has, like her tomboy, confident, she's gorgeous, she's confident. I love Katie as a character. So the scene continues, and like the Hicks start chirping the hockey players, right? The Hicks, as always, get the final word in. We even hear Daryl say, "Get real," in this exchange, which is like, watching Picasso invent Cubism. Another standout of this old web series episodes is the produce stand, which it looks so different in this short than it did on the show.
Greasiest skid you ever seen come up the produce stand the other day.
They are kind of outside this greenhouse, and Wayne and Daryl have like a shopping cart full of random fruit. Like you could tell they were very much like just trying to get the shots where they could. It's the classic of Stewart, who is the skid, but it wasn't his actor playing him. It was like another guy who looked like a skid. He comes up, and then Wayne and Daryl start chirping him. And the interesting part about this short is that at the end, the skid, is done being roasted by Wayne and Derry, and his girlfriend comes up, and she's like gorgeous. So Wayne and Derry are like, kind of gobsmacked that he ended up he's like, oh my gosh, he had this beautiful girlfriend this whole time. Like, we thought he was just such a loser. It was kind of like the egg on the Hicks face, which I feel like doesn't happen that often in Letterkenny. Like in the show Letterkenny, I feel like they don't usually do that to them. They usually are the ones who get the final word in, and they win, so to speak. And I think it's just odd that the show never painted a picture with that ending. Like, usually no matter what, the Hicks end up on top, and they have like this badass aura that they carry with them because Wayne's like the toughest guy in Letterkenny and this and that, and everybody likes them, right? But it was just odd to see Wayne in particular like dumbfounded at the end of that. Another fun fact, this web series actually got a nomination for Best Original Fiction Program or Series Created for Digital Media at the 2nd Canadian Screen Awards in 2014. So excellent job. Another fun fact is that Letterkenny, the show, was shot in Sudbury, Ontario, which is like so, I don't want to say meta, but oh, it's so meta. It was so cool that Shoresy is based in Sudbury, Ontario. It's this fictional town, Letterkenny, being shot, you know, in Sudbury, I'm sure outside of Sudbury and like rural places, was really cool for me to learn. Yeah, and now I just want to like yap about the writing some more. First, the repetitiveness of the dialogue like not only uses strategic patterns to engage the viewer, but it also makes the viewer feel like they're a part of the joke. Kind of like how I was talking about with like inside jokes earlier. For example, this one scene in Letterkenny, they're like going around and saying the perfect names of like spin-off sequels is whenever you combine 2 TV shows and you have to combine their names. Like the best way to do the reboot is to take 2 old beloved shows, make them into one show, but like the last word of the first show has to be the first word of the second show that you combine it with. Like they combine Doctor Who and Who's the Boss to Doctor Who's the Boss. So it's like they take turns in this scene coming up with ones for a while. And like you have Modern Family Feud, Dating Game of Thrones, Perfect Stranger Things. And as a viewer, you start to come up with your own. It's almost like a game within the show. So that's why I think like the repetitiveness works for me, because while they're like coming up with beer puns or hockey player name puns, when the like hockey players are ordering at a restaurant, you start to do it too, and it's interactive in that way, right? My modern one was the summer I turned Pretty Little Liars, by the way. So the show's writing also takes care of its characters, and what I mean by that is I was watching a YouTube video from Lonnie's Lens. I'll link her down in the description, and I think I talked about her last video too, so sorry Lonnie, I just love your content. Abbott Elementary, she was talking about this interview with Quinta Brunson, who's the creator of Abbott Elementary, like this amazing comedy show. And Quinta said her approach to comedy writing was like if you have to think about all your characters and how they would pick up a $5 bill. So if you really take care of your characters and you write them in depth, you'll know that each one of them will interact with a $5 bill on the ground differently. She talked about like how Barbara would call it a blessing because, she's very, very religious and Christianity, and then Jacob would go on like a capitalism rant or whatever. So Letterkenny definitely defines its characters by really hard lines, like almost visually, like so obvious, this group is different from this group, but then even in the individual groups, they're very different from each other and have these strong personalities. The way these characters are written kind of define these unspoken rules between everybody. Anytime the rules are bent a little, it creates like the sense of drama or the sense of comedy, and having Wayne as a protagonist of this world it like drives it to a whole other point, like to even further, because he is like the king of rules, right? Like he sticks to his routine. He's very like kind of a square when it comes to bending the rules and breaking the rules. With him as a witness or him being a part of it, it even drives it further. The last thing I'm gonna talk about is like the relationships becoming so heartfelt between all of the characters. there's a lot of good, like, beautiful values kind of represented in this. When a friend asks for help, you help them. And I think that's very powerful. I think nowadays we're all very, not anti-friendship, but just a lot of people have like these boundaries where, you know, maybe you don't ask a friend to drive you to the airport anymore. And I'm hoping that now as a society we're getting away from that, because I think true friends really should help each other. That's what having friends is for. That's what it's about. Like, you're supposed to love people and help them when they need help. I love that value presented in the show. If a friend asks for help, you help them. There's a lot of other little things like that in the show that are so heartfelt, and it's because of the relationships. It kind of uses the rules in a way too, where it drives relationships and it drives the friendships in the show. Example I want to use in this is like a relationship that's pretty consistent through the show. It's Wayne and Katie. So as siblings, as older brother and younger sister, they have this, you know, sibling dynamic, but they also have this heartfelt relationship where they can get competitive with each other, or they might even get in a small argument with each other. They might not agree on like this certain thing, and we're always not going to agree on that certain thing, but at the end of the day, they come back together, and Wayne is still going to be so protective of her, and she's going to be so protective of him. And so you can tell that they actually care about each other, and they pick on each other, but you know they know each other better than anyone else in the world. And they're similar in subtle ways, but like Katie, I think, is a lot more bold and not afraid to break the rules than Wayne. Obviously, she still kind of sticks to her traditions, but definitely different from Wayne in that respect. And they're just always there for each other. And you know, whenever they have romantic partners that, like, you know, screw them over in some kind of way, not only is Wayne gonna go beat the guy who hurt Katie, but Katie also goes out of her way to get revenge on the girls who break Wayne's heart too. And the show also has this kind of chosen family aspect to it. You know, not many of them are related to each other, but they choose to be around each other and spend time with one another despite their differences. So yeah, I love Letterkenny. I haven't seen anybody like do a breakdown of it. I love a 3-hour breakdown of anything. So if you see any, like, feel free to link down below any commentary videos. But the only thing I can find was like Jared Kiso interviews. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. I hope everybody has a great week, and I wish I had a cat here because they make these sign-offs a little less awkward. But what's your favorite Letterkenny episode? My favorite is the slumber party one, where it's like a snowy night and they're all like locked in playing board games and stuff. I love that episode. I watch it when I need a comfort episode. So that's my favorite. Comment your favorite if anybody's watching this. And I'm just gonna do this until I can afford a beachfront property somewhere with white sand and salt water. So I will talk to you again next week. Bye.